Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Alright, so from like the beginning of time, Dragon Ball Z games have mostly been like a 2D or an arena fighter type of game. But what if I told you that there was another DBZ game, that decided to say, hey, instead of doing that, let's make it an action RPG. Fellows, let me introduce you to Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. As per usual, I do got a little bit of a short story, on how I acquired such a game. So there I was, one day my sophomore year, debating whether or not I should, get this game, as it looked pretty cool at the time. And people were just dogging on it. They were constantly saying, oh, it's gonna be bad, or what a waste of money it'll be. And so that kind of like, jolted me a little further to decide to, pre-order the game anyway. And when I came home to the mailbox, this showed up. Now, while the cover isn't really much to like gawk or stare at, the back is kind of a whole different story. It's pretty interesting.
Relive the Dragon Ball Z saga. From the arrival of Raditz to the final fight against Buu, play as several Z warriors in the action RPG adventure. Enjoy a lot of activities, mini-games, side quests, and train for intense boss fights. Bro, this thing's crazy!
Hey man, I'm hyped, alright? You know what I'm saying? I am absolutely hyped. DBZ, RPG, two of my favorite genre knees. Hey, I've looked out. So with that being said, let's boot this game in and see how it plays, shall we? Alright, so we start up the game and wait, you mean to tell me do my ears really deceive me? There's no blaring audio? I'm just gonna get into the title screen finally? After 2 games? Finally. I'll give the game that. Now, just like Battle of Z, there's also character types in this game as well. It goes attack types, defensive types, and support types. Attack types will generally help you out when doing, well, the attacks, and can even help combo, which is pretty cool. Defense types will sometimes guard incoming damage and reduce the overall impact, because stunning in this game is kind of strong and we can't really be having that. And lastly, support types will sometimes aid you in battle by giving you health, restoration, the shadooby to go back into the fight. With all of the way, let's get into the good and the bad aspects of this game. I'm sure you're aware, but this game is a retelling of the DBZ story that we all know and love. But if I'll be honest, I think that this game does a really great job in telling the story, while at the same time adding in some Easter eggs along the way. Like, seeing Launch and other non-related characters, to the DBZ, like storyline like Mira, Toa, and Android 21. Not to mention, they also decided to clean up some retcons or plot holes in the story. Like now Gohan actually has a better reasoning for his crash out, as he actually gets to talk and interact with Android 16. There's quite a lot of mini games to play. You got fishing, racing, eating, and baseball, just to name a few. It really brings the immersion during the whole chill and relax parts in between intermissions, just to hang back and really enjoy the scenery. It's really nice. A little mention I have about fishing, just, for fishing, is that I do love the calm and quietness while fishing. No crazy music, nothing like that. Really just bringing the ambience, the sheer ambience, bruh. A little pro tip, if you throw the bait, of like more catching fish of like reels or whatever, and you stop fishing, you will still have your same uses. So if you have like 3 uses, you'll still have your same uses if you back out. So if you're trying to do it to catch like, let's say a golden fish, you can just fish, you don't like your fish that you see, back out, and just keep doing it over and over until you get the desired fish so you can grab it. The game has some surprisingly good and wholesome side quests, like the Cookie Cook recurrence, where she's like always in danger in every point in Gohan's life. Or what about Android 18 worrying about Krillin on his job status? Or even Hercule needing, your help to fight a dinosaur to basically save face so he doesn't have to do it. And after getting chewed out by his daughter, realizes that he needs to step up to the plate and be, the grand champion. Again, just to name a few. Another minor mention in combat, if you have Krillin on your team, remember these words: when in doubt, solar flare it out, as it'll reset everyone's position and blind the enemy team. Very overpowered and is semi-cheesy. I say this because assists are people who are in your party and can use only like 2 moves, and unfortunately have cooldowns when using one of these moves. So it's not fully cheese, but still, use the cheese phone in case of an emergency. I'm stunned. There's nothing I can do. Is what I would have said. Krillin! I'm getting absolutely Krillin!
Dad's mind is separated from his
Krillin! In terms of hidden details, this game really does go out of its way to make them present. 2 that I can say, off rip, is that while in key search mode, you can see people's auras, really taking the whole scene of, your screen, like when Nappa and Vegeta takes up your whole screen. Story-wise, I think it's kind of cool, as you can't tell who really has the bigger power level, since they're so close that they're both masking each other's auras. Another one that I have recently learned in time of, making this video, shout out to Kadaze, is the Namekians, they can hold their breath about 8 seconds longer than everyone else. While it's not a crazy difference, it's a little nice touch to the whole Namekians and water and that's all, they drink and do. And lastly, graphically, bars. When the game goes out on a cutscene, oh my goodness, I'm not one to really talk about graphics, but when it goes out though, it is good. I mean, really good. Not to mention that structurally, for map placements and whatnot all over the hub world, I love seeing all the places in Dragon Ball Z, like Capsule Corp, Goku's house, Kame's house, and Kami's lookout, and the like. Man, did this game bring its A game or what? From eating to training to exploring, I will say that Dragon Ball Z Kakarot did extremely well in those aspects, and makes you feel like you're literally in a Dragon Ball Z episode, wanting more on what's to come. Let me stop the car. Man, you made me miss my turn. Get in. We'll talk about this. Oh, hey, it's so happy to great to see you. Listen here. Alright, I want you to make us a full course meal. Then we're gonna get to training. Then we're gonna fight. And Gohan's gonna have to learn how to tap into his anger potential. Oh, please no! Not the frying pan again.
That's awesome! Glad to hear it.
However, while it does, have its great share of good, also sadly, falls a bit short in some parts of the game. My starting issue is, well, the combat. The combat feels too easy. Like, you literally can just spam your attack button, and when the enemy's about to unleash, that red move, that old stun, if you time it right, you can just hold the guard, hit the key button, you'll unleash this clear bubble. And the point case of being is that it'll negate the stun. And it'll leave you invulnerable while he's still, or whoever it is still using his red move for a few seconds, and you can just keep spamming more of the same moves. When you're done dealing or taking damage, your surge meter will be ready to go. Once activated, your super cooldowns gone, as you'll just be able to keep hitting people with, and I quote, big attacks.
Big bang! Attack! Big attack! Big attack! Big attack!
What's that? The stun meter is too high. Gone. Since you can keep following up attacks, with your surge mode, you'll continuously break the stun bar over and over again, while also doing even more damage until it heals back up. Now, while surge is a good get out of combat quick card, on hard difficulty, it gets laughed at in your face. And I'm not talking about, oh, now they can tank the damage, blah, blah, blah. I'm literally talking about the fact that the AI will go into stall-based attacks and will stun you with moves, a lot of moves, until you're out of surge mode, and then they'll just go back to their dumb AI fighting style. Like, why? Continuing on the difficulty point, I went into hard mode this time to see if maybe the AI gets a bit tougher. And while yes, you will get punished for mashing and spamming, the counter for doing so is just prolonging people's moves to the point where I'm in a 3-minute dodging session just to get only a few hits on Dodoria of all people. Now, I know what you're gonna say. Well, Swag, bro, you put the difficulty on hard, so the enemies are gonna be, a lot tougher, as implied with, well, the hard difficulty. And alright, fine. I'll give you that. But with that being said, let me just show you a fight between Android 18 versus Vegeta. So, while this fight's going on, let me explain something about 18. Good old 18. Outside of Goku, she's probably like one of the only few characters that doesn't even need a mention, right? That's how much aura she has, bruh. Now, in these mainline DBZ swag views, she's always given me some kind of trouble. From blocking, attacks with her back, to not healing me, and in this case, to normally spamming Sadistic 18, Palm Smash, and Ultimate Blaster. So I gotta keep dodging and getting out of range for like an eternity. Just so you know, Bandai, and other devs who think that this is a good way of doing the difficulty system, doing this difficulty system like this doesn't make the game more challenging, it just makes the game more annoying. Like, cause this isn't with just a whole, oh, well, their AI is smarter, so they're doing a whole bunch of different moves. That's the difficulty in difficulty, bruh. It's not how much damage they do, and however leveled they are. It's how smarter they are, how more adaptable they are. That's the hard difficulty. It shouldn't just be a damage counter. Moving on, some moves I feel like in the game don't really have too much of an impact. That oomph, that puts the hoin on them, like a Spirit Bomb. It takes so much ki and feels like a Kamehameha would have done exceedingly better. Like when you shoot it, it doesn't have that punch on it, which is, really stupid since it's Spirit Bomb, like the big attack, like, okay. Solar Flare is, well, also annoyingly broken. Now, I did get my just desserts while fighting, the Cell Juniors, as they kept stunning me forever and ever and ever. I know someone's screaming, hypocrite, but look, man, all right, it's one of those instances where it's like, it's cool when I do it, it's a problem when they do it. Also, don't even bother with Destructo Disc, as it's a pretty useless attack that barely has any weight to it. Speaking about movesets, some attacks aren't even in the game at all. Like the Kaioken attack, the main staple move that Goku used against Nappa to, stun him and, paralyze him. That story point is not in here, which is really dumb. But you know what else is really dumb? Being a support character and only having like 2 moves. So if you're a selectable character, i.e. Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, and the drink, then you can't control or play them at all. And I don't mean like Goku, Gohan, I'm talking about the other characters that you have on your team. They can't be played at all. If you're not Goku in them, you can't be played. Which makes this even more dumber, as people like 18 are shown to have moves like Sadistic 18, again, a pretty staple move that literally has her name in it. It's not a selectable skill in the game. Like, and lastly for this combat point, the Raditz fight. The infamous Raditz fight. I'ma just leave it there. There's really nothing much more I have to say about this. Now, this game ain't no Sonic 06 levels of glitchy, but even on the PS5, it has its problems. Like, how when the game decides to autosave, it'll just freeze. And you'll sit there for like 10 seconds wondering if your console's gonna crash, because the game will do this every single autosaving time. From shy and reserved to dominant and assertive. 2 delicious types. This would be really delicious if the game would stop stinking freezing on my PlayStation 5. Another glitch I ran into was that when I was done with, Cell Saga Gohan's side quest, his voice changed from his like little kid voice to his high school Saga counterpart. Like, y'all didn't check that? Do not try to drown.
Right.
I mean, yeah, that's the plan.
Better make this fast.
What? You know how we like in some RPGs, characters will repeat the same lines if they interact with certain things, over and over again? Well, this is almost Xenoblade Chronicles 3 level of bad, but since there's like loads of enemies and things to interact with, you will keep constantly hearing the exact 2 lines of dialogue. You could just be flying, minding your own business, and then there's like an enemy that's like floating up in the air, and then they'll just say the exact same line, or another exact same line. Because you're passing by enemies trying to actively avoid them, they'll just keep repeating the same exact like audio over and over and over again. Apples too, fishes, they'll even talk about a steel bridge. Like, okay, no one cares about the steel bridge, dude. If I have to hear one more thing about a steel bridge in a series that has dinosaurs and cars in the palm of your hand, I don't know if I'll take it anymore. Cause again, like we don't live near there.
Cave.
But
A cave.
yeah, a cave. Like, dude, these people just say that it's one thing if it was just they said like the dialogue, and then like probably like a minute later said the dialogue. But it's a whole other thing to say the thing, back away for like 2 seconds, and then come back in, and it's like, oh look, okay. It's like, yeah, you really was just here. Like, doesn't the game kind of have like a sensor for that? Like, hey, this dude already just went to this cave. Maybe you shouldn't hear the same. Oh, it sounds terrible. Man, this game does not like whenever I just hit into random intro cutscenes in this supposed to be seamless game. Piccolo, what on earth was that? Now, a lot of the glitches were kind of like passive, nothing really much to really say. Like how I could, easily sum up these. But I feel like a lot of these glitches, most of these glitches actually showed up during the Majin Buu saga. That's when I started noticing a lot more like errors and things like that. A massive example I can say was I was Gohan going to Master Roshi's place and trying to learn a few moves. All of a sudden, my camera broke. And I know it's like, okay, well now you have that free roam cam perspective. What's really wrong with that? This is a game where you actively have to be locked on to the people, and you can't really like, if you're turning your camera, it's making me lock on to different people, and I can't, I can't leave, I can't flee, I can't do anything because I'm locked into this room. It's a training area. I can't escape and then walk off this. I have to fight these guys. So I'm having to just fight, randomly and hope for the best, which is extremely dumb. It wasn't fun at all. It was stupid. Now, sadly, I don't have footage for this because this is mainly coming from, memory level, but I remember, playing on the PS4, at the time, like when the game was mainly like, kind of new or whatever. But I remembered that if you use the EX Spirit Bomb for Goku, Super Big Bang Attack for Vegeta, and Finish Buster for Trunks, all at the same time, like against Banyu in the training facility, the game would drastically slow down. I don't know if it would crash the game, because I didn't really try it, but I knew that every time that you use those 3 moves, the game would get extremely framey. Oh, and another little thing I want to say is that I also don't think the game really liked whenever you control other people like Goten, as his shoulders will just dislocate just for him to go back into his like Christmas tree type of pose. Okay, I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about. So you see that I'm moving the stick, I flick left, yada yada yada. Okay. You see Gohan's currently walking, right? Look at my fingers, now moving. He just starts running. Okay. What about we flick it around? We flick it around. Okay. Let me see if I flick it around, right? Maybe maybe whatever, right? Maybe whatever. Okay. Look. Watch. He just starts moving. See, this is me moving, right? This is me walking. See? It's me walking. I guess you could like I have control over Gohan. Like, this is not me just messing around. And then he starts moving. I don't get that. It's so dumb. Now look, this game is supposed to be a retelling of the franchise, you know, the DBZ franchise. So I'm not gonna, obviously fanboy out. I will say that they do cut some scenes out, which, is okay, whatever. But some of them are like really critical plot points. A few examples that I have. Did you know that Vegeta has a move called Final Flash? Yeah, you and I, me, you, Zabumafu, we saw that, and that was a really cool scene during the Cell Saga, and was rumored that, it could have actually killed Cell if it made contact with him. Well, in the game, you wouldn't know that, as Vegeta's fight against Cell gets immediately skipped for no reason. They're just like, oh, well, I'm gonna wait until my father gets knocked out, and then immediately just snap like that, he gets knocked out, for no reason. Like, you don't get to see the build-up, you don't get to see nothing of actual, Vegeta's moveset or the whole thing. You just see him just immediately get knocked out, which was kind of lame, because, the Final Flash was really cool. And, again, a big plot point, because it almost could have blown up the whole Earth, but hey, that's just me. And Trunks too, like, you'd be stupid confused as to why Trunks is in his buff form when he's fighting against Cell, because they just cut that part off. You don't know why Trunks is in his buff form. For my people in the back, the reason why Trunks gets his he gets a super Trunks, buff form is because he trained with Vegeta. And the reason why it didn't work was because Trunks put more into strength than speed. So while yes, he could have also Boo Baba Gog Cell, it wouldn't have mattered because he wouldn't be able to catch Cell. They also skip when Trunks goes back in time to face the androids in his timeline. The whole reason why he went into the past and why we have the timeline right now, to have a timeline where there was peace. The way how the game sets it up, and for really what all we know, is that Trunks dies in the future, gets absorbed by Cell, and you never would know that. You would only make that assumption until the end of the game, where if you for some reason go to Capsule Corp, you'll see Trunks standing next to his time machine, which is cool that he's back. And it's cool that, we get to go, to past sagas, in case we miss, certain sub-quests, which is great. But, did you beat the androids? What happened to Cell? They just kind of said, oh yeah, Trunks is back. And that's pretty much all we got. So, just roll with that storyline. Come on. Oh, and to end this whole thing off, it's Dende. Wait. Dende? Wait, you're small, bro. How do you mess this up? How? Literally how? How did you mess that part up? This was literally one scene. I'm not talking about 10 minutes. I mean literally probably 30 seconds from the last scene. Kid Buu fight, adult Dende, and then this scene they just revert him to a child. How did y'all not see this and still gave him his older voice to boot? This game, man. This game. And now with all that out of the way, I can finally, segue into the graphics. So sometimes Kakarot will look phenomenal. I mean, straight up beautiful. And I really don't say that a lot, but graphically, it can be really great, especially during cinematic cutscenes. When it has those, it's great. It's awesome. They keep that up. It's amazing. When they try, my lord, it's beautiful. Coming from a PS4 to a PS5, and it's still great to see when Kakarot wants to be. Because other times, it will look rushed, dog water, boo-boo, and just jagged. I mean so jagged. Or be like the end of Majin Buu and just kind of give up 1/4 of the way there and show us these scenes? What is this? Why are they all freeze framed? What is this? Bandai, come on. What are we doing here? It's supposed to be the end conclusion of Dragon Ball Z, allegedly, for this saga, and this is how you hit us? To delve into a more minor category is that quite a bit of the sub-stories are pretty wholesome, like the ones that I mentioned earlier. That being said, there's also a lot of shovelware quests, mostly prevalent with Gohan. Most of his quests are just, hey, Gohan, hi Bulma, hey, could you do this random thing for me? I mean, you can literally do this yourself, super genius, multimillionaire, imply that you can time travel, yada yada yada. But you still gotta do it anyways. And since most of his stuff is just destroying things or grabbing items that have the same name, but despite them having the same name, it doesn't complete the quest. So you gotta keep finding all the items to hopefully get the right item. Then you gotta fight robots that is so stupid. Then you gotta fight robots that apparently only exist in the DB. Like, it's just only Red Ribbon Army robots. No Sidemen, no nothing like that. Just only Red Ribbon Army robots. Then you have to fight them. Then you beat them. Then you get all the items. And then that's pretty much the end of the quest. Most of the quests are just shovelware quests of just doing random menial tasks. Like, I don't know why they did that. It's stupid. Alright. I'm pretty certain that you can tell that I really just don't care for those subquests. Half of them. So my final point now for the game is this. So, usually what I do with these reviews is I try to at least fully play out, wherever it is I'm reviewing. As I go into the belief that, well, you should. You should at least see a good decent margin of whatever the content that you're like covering over, that you've at least seen a good extent of it to form an opinion. With that being said, I completed the game, and while making my official save, I remembered my, over 200 hour playthrough of Kakarot that I had on my PS4. And since I accidentally forgot to save, my transfer file, when I made my new file, to get some gameplay footage, it oversaved over my transfer file, right? So I was like, well, now that I'm done with the game, I'm gonna go transfer my file from PS4 and, bring it onto my console. The game, yes, did however warn me, hey, it's gonna delete your save. But I thought, oh, it's probably just the one save. So I'm gonna just, oversave like probably about 3 different saves, but it didn't matter, right? Because no, that's too ingenious. That's way too smart. So you know what they did? They removed all of my save footage from when I got the gameplay footage to review this game. I was sick and extremely frustrated with the game, especially after that. All those annoyances, those stinking random goofy subquests, the glitches, the combat, the chicken, the cheddar, and now you get this whole transfer data over saving on my save? All of these annoyances and my hardships for this game all amounted to nothing. Oh, and just to, kind of end this off, I will not be talking about the DLC since, like, these vids are like 20 minutes, usually 20 minutes long, and I feel like that's kind of like way too long to also get my base game and the DLC. But I mainly like to look at the base game as well, the base game, and then maybe DLC on the side. I don't know. I'm just not really a big fan of, trying to counter in both those two. I want to see the game as it was originally, right? That's me. So maybe if it gets like 100 likes, I'll go through the entire, DLC up to the most recent one that's out at the time. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really gotta say for the game. Alright, so to summarize this up, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is an open-world action RPG retelling of the TV show Dragon Ball Z, and follows Goku and the Z Fighters' journey from the Saiyan Saga to the Majin Buu Saga. The game is quite fun, with many activities and minigames to boot, not to mention having its share of great Easter eggs that's definitely worth seeing. But that's kinda where my high notes run dry, as once you beat the story portion of the game, there's not really much else to keep you going, as many of the sub-stories are just fetch quests, and grinding for enemies aren't really that great. Autosaves freezing your game, even on the PS5 version, glitches around the corner here and there, and critical story plots will really get on your nerves, especially after a while. It's a tough recommendation, but for what it's got, I think it's definitely an experience worth having. And so my final rating for this game is a McDonald's sweet tea out of 10. So Scribble, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any experiences to share or your thoughts on the game, let us know down below in the comment section. The next poll I'll be putting out, after this vid. Like once this video's done, I'll put the poll out and, y'all can go vote it up from there. Links will be listed on the screen if you want some more content, from what I do. And with that being said, it's the Swag Brother Briss out of the Butter Bird saying to beware and take care.